Good morning, everyone. How we doing? Uh, it is Saturday morning, as we're saying. It's chilly in some places, not bad here in upstate South Carolina, but it's December 14th already, and month is half over, and a little after 10 a.m. So let's get started. Um, Couple things. I know we had a question on the floor, and uh, hopefully we'll get to that today. And we actually had two questions because Charles had a question that we still haven't addressed yet, at least not uh, in detail. Uh, so hopefully we'll get to one or both of those as the day goes on, kind of bring it into our discussion. Uh, Last week was a very interesting, profound week to me because of our study and what was said, and especially on Monday night. Uh, on Monday night, we talked about a few things. We uh, uh, talked about that new heaven and the new earth, and Pastor gave some examples and where how that ties into where we are today and what we're seeing. We talked about mindsets again, and mindsets is something ongoing that we'll probably be talking about from henceforth and forevermore. It's not only to talk about how we think, but our belief systems and what is valuable to us, where we are actually, and our it speaks to our awareness, our conscious awareness, and that's one of the things that we ended with is talking about I knowing who we are, knowing our identity, and not being shaken when we see things. We Pastor used the example of something John Henry Clark said. When they laughed at your clothes, they laughed at your name, they laughed at your God, and how all those things influenced us. And knowing who you are. Um, Gaining that understanding, meaning that you may be there may be times that you will be shaken, but we will not be broken. We will not be moved to the point of being duped into to not recognizing who we truly are and buying into a different mindset. So sticking to your values, sticking to what you are aware of as far as self. So that's kind of my, of course, a lot more was said in on last week. Uh, the one thing that Pastor left off with uh, that stuck with me the most was when he said, "What do you believe, and who are you?" And that's kind of where I wanted to pick up today. And I'm trying to give him a couple of minutes to get on here because that's what I told him I wanted to start with today, and I don't see him on just yet. But anyway, you any questions or comments or of anything that I've said or that you may see that ties into what we've talked about so far?
Yeah, good morning, Ron. Good morning, everyone.
Thanks,
Uh,
sir. How are you?
as you were, speaking about mindset, um, there's a saying that we probably all maybe heard of before, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And what it made me give thought to is that particular question in terms of who am I? But at the same time, there's four stages of the mind that I just like to, briefly just mention, and I'm sure that it'll hopefully connect to the conversation that we're going to have. And those four stages of the mind, talk about the importance of first unconsciousness, not being aware, of what our spirit or what our senses, what our the images that we see, the concepts that we think, and at the same time, our gut mother instinct. And so at some point in time, we can become unconscious, with
Yeah.
regards to the things that should be things that we're giving thought to as we are, moving into our discussion today. And so being conscious, is the next stage of the mind where we talk about simple consciousness, things that we should know, you know what I mean? Things that we do know. And as we continue to look at this connection of being unconscious and looking at simple consciousness, it takes us to a third level, which is self-consciousness,
Yeah.
in terms of our own self-regulations, in terms of the things that we're learning. And it all deals with the mind. However, we know that as we want to move towards the heart soul, the mind has its purposes. And we know that sometimes the mind may war with the body, may war with the soul, in terms of just some of the, situations that we may get caught up in, living on this life journey.
Mhm.
And the last stage of the mind is where they talk about intuitive intuition, and that's, part of our spirit or our cosmic consciousness, in terms of now, like you asking the question, you know, who am I, or what is my purpose? And so as I think as we begin to explore, this journey of self-consciousness, I think we're, at a place and space where we're really looking at it, from not a holistic perspective, but the mind, is something that I think that again, we're conscious about, but I think going into a leave even deeper, I'm sure that it'll have some relevance in terms of what, we're talking about. So I just wanted to just mention those four stages of the mind, but I realized that too, we need to, dig a little bit deeper in terms of understanding, the heart soul of why we do what we do versus just looking at it from a mindset of our own intellect, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just wanted to share those four points of emphasis, just dealing with the mind.
Okay.
I'm done.
Um,
Thank-
I just wanted to make a couple of comments.
okay.
And Ron, I really like your question because, boy, makes you really think. And Georgia, I appreciate your comments about the mind, but it makes me think about how long ago was it that Pastor had that dream? Because that dream and us really considering what it meant was sort of the impetus for us taking leaps and bounds since then in
Yeah.
terms of our own mindset and what resonates with us and what we're beginning to understand to be the truth. Um, so I just wanted to mention that because in these past few months, we've taken a real hard, not right, I won't say right.
No.
We've taken a real hard turn from some things that we used to believe. In terms of it, let me say this, in terms of literal stuff,
Yeah.
because the Bible is not literal, but it does have lots of truths in it. So I appreciate your question because that's kind of what I'm going through, figuring out, what is it that I believe and who is it that I am? Uh,
Yeah.
and I think, yeah, this is going to be a good conversation today.
Thank you. Um, everyone, because I see a couple of people just joined us. I tried to do a summation of all where we left off last Monday, and it also shows, Audrey, the importance of all. Maybe sometimes going back and listening to a lesson, because when Pastor asked those questions last week, and he was talking about it followed on the heels of talking about what John Henry Clark asking what that meant, and Evelyn's question on new heaven and a new earth, which I also thought was interesting, and a doorway. It was a doorway to lead into to this, bring us here to where we are today. But the why I say it was important to listen to the videos is when he asked that question or those two questions, I didn't hear anything else. It's funny that that locked in my head and it triggered something. I felt something when he said it, and I even said that to him later. I felt something when you asked those questions. But it's funny that it shut me down. I heard nothing else until I went back and listened to the videos and listened to the examples. Um, Here's what I like to tie it to. Here's what I see. But I like to talk today about what do you believe and who are you? Those were the questions that Pastor asked last week. Who are you and what do you believe? What I like to tie it to though is listening to that video that Pastor sent to the teachers. And I'm just going to use a couple of things to bring everybody up to speed that may not have heard the video. We talked about Ptah. We've talked about Atum and some of the other names out of the Kushite of the Kemetic, trying to gain some understanding of what we're looking at, the ancient history of Africa, which was really Kabbalah, and looked at that. So we look at the thing that on the video she talked about Neter, and Neter being, if you can compare it, and this me talking, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but Neter being the comparison, if you will, to Elohim. Okay, so then she talked about the different aspects. Yes, sir. Did I say that wrong?
Well, Netter. Ptah is more comparison to Elohim, because out of the energy of Ptah comes the word, comes the description of everything that is Atum. After Ptah is brought into existence, so Netter, Netter. Well, the way I see Netter is that Netter is the unspeakable name, or the light of all.
Okay.
Because
Okay. So Neter would be Ensof.
yes.
Okay. Neter would be Ensof, and Ptah would be Elohim. Okay. But I listened to her give some names to these and a little bit of understanding so you could follow her. And she called it Ptah. She called it the breath of life. She called the tomb that which has the ability to rejuvenate itself, which is what I see when you look at what do I believe and who am I? Because what I believe today, as Audrey pointed out, is not what I believed 2 years ago or 6 months ago, for that matter. So as all of this changes, you recognize self, and a man being that part that is hidden, that part of God, that part of us that has not been revealed to us yet. And Ra being the sun, of course, the symbol of the sun, but being movement, being your actions, being that part that which is animated, the to do. So all of these things, even as we looked at this political climate that we are in, all of these things have been catalysts to push us in a direction. So as we grow and we recognize and we move into this, what it showed me was, Ron, part of your confusion, part of your frustration is you're in still two worlds. You're trying to gain understanding of this, but you still don't know who you are because there's too many other values that you hold on to. So as I try to flush this and recleanse my mind and renew my mind, moving into this stage, I see that to understand and to pursue truth has moving us into a place where there are no limitations. That is why the scripture speaks of there being formless, and because there is no limitation to it. The same explanation she gave when she was talking about netter, being formless, that there are no limitations. There are no limitations to what we do. So the feeling stuck, or the feeling bogged down, or the feeling that we are sometimes powerless to do things, is us still holding on to some of those previous values that we have. And we are far beyond that if we open our eye and look at who and what we have from an intuitive perspective. And I don't want to talk too much. Somebody help me here.
Ron, while you were talking, what came to me is this. I don't know whether you said this before I got logged on or not, but the mindset that we have struggles with who it is, because we don't know how to purge ourselves of a European mindset. If we, and we are holding on to the remnants of Christianity, then we will always have a European mindset. The whole reason that I want to talk about the stone of Shabaka, or Shabaka stone, is not to impress anyone as to what I or any of us who study Shabaka stone, is not to impress you what we know. Because I do believe a teacher should know far more than what they teach. So we're not trying to impress anyone. However, I believe with everything in me that the foundational understanding, not the complete understanding of what's on the stone, because what's on the stone is not only spiritual, but is also academic in terms of mathematics, the teaching of medicine, etc. I'm talking about the Genesis story, the foundation of it. Why is it that I feel like it is so important for us to hear it, embrace it, understand it? I believe that that is the only way that we will be able to have any semblance of a spiritual mindset. The foundational understanding that's in Genesis is not how things happened from the beginning. The Genesis story is a fable based upon the truth of creation. The intricate parts of the creation are not necessary for us to know. Example: if you read Genesis, Bereshit bara Elohim. Bereshit bara Elohim is translated as, in the beginning, God created Elohim. That's the literal translation of it. So in the beginning, Elohim was created. In the beginning, when I say God, it doesn't say God. Bereshit means beginning. It does not say in beginning. It says beginning. Bereshit bara means to create. So in the beginning, Elohim was created. So if Elohim was created in the beginning, who created Elohim? Ein Sof, the light of all lights, the unspeakable name, the one that brought everything into existence, inclusive of Elohim, because it is an aspect of the one who brought everything into existence. And the aspect of the earth is predicated on what's in the universe. When it says, and the darkness covered the deep, it's talking about the universe. It's not talking about primordial waters as we know water.
Beginning.
So beginning is speaking to the universe. Everything that's in the universe, the plasma of the universe, the black holes of the universe, every bit of that is encapsulated in the darkness. Understanding what that means is paramount to cleansing or to purging or to having a spiritual mindset as opposed to having a European or Christian mindset. With that example, I say that the whole mindset of the European is justified by Christianity. Because the whole mindset of the European when it comes to Christianity is about violence. It's not talking about what it actually means. I believe, well, I don't believe this, I know it because I was shown this week. I know it. That the Bible itself was written by Africans and it was encoded so that the colonizers would not be able to translate it the way it is written. And the colonizers put their twist on it, but they could not twist the truth out of it. And we have been put in a, no, we haven't. Just let me be true to what was in me. We have been chosen to decode it. And that is the reason we are able to look at and the darkness covered the deep and see what it means, as opposed to taking what has been given to us like is water. Is water. If you look in the concordance, it says piss. That's what it says in the concordance. If you look at the Kemetic understanding of it, it's talking about the universe. That's the difference. If we understand that little bit, if we embrace that little bit, as opposed to believing that everything came out of something that was excreted from the body, which means that it is waste. If the light was called out of the waste, then the light itself is waste. You understand what I'm saying? So far, what I'm saying is this: if the darkness that's mentioned in Genesis that the spirit hovers over, you with me now? If that darkness is something that is dirty and light was called out of it, then the light itself is dirty. The darkness in that Genesis creation is the universe. That light is enlightenment. So The universe is a mystery. That is why the darkness is called wisdom. Are you with me now?
Okay,
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yes.
Okay. The darkness is called wisdom. And the light comes out of the darkness is understanding. And the essence of all of this is based upon femininity and masculinity. And knowledge is neither, it's androgynous, meaning that knowledge can be either. It can be feminine or masculine, depending on how you use it. If I use knowledge to teach you something, I'm planting the seed in you. That's masculine. If I am using knowledge to help me understand something, and you bring it and you give me the understanding of it, which means that you explain to me the knowledge to the extent that I can understand it, then knowledge for me is feminine because you are putting the seed in me that brings me to a greater sense of understanding that knowledge. Does that make sense? Come on, y'all. I need some feedback.
Yep.
Because there's no point in me going forward if you're not seeing this, right? So when we look at that,
I guess I'm still left at the urine.
well, I said that if you look in the concordance, that's what it says.
Yeah, it does. It does, and I've looked at that.
And
Yeah.
I do not believe it's true. That's what
I don't either. And that's here or there. I follow what you're saying. Uh, I've always taken that to believe that uh, if I worked in a coal mine and my clothes go in a washing machine and they come out of that washing machine clean, there had to be some agitation to get them. So the light that comes out of that water that we're talking about has gone through some agitation, and that's what we go through now. That's the twisting away. So to me, it speaks. Are we saying the same thing? That it speaks to the path that you must take to pull what is refreshing, what is renewed from all of this waste.
the universe is in a constant state of agitation.
Okay.
And nothing comes without a struggle. The worm does not become a butterfly without a struggle getting out of the cocoon. The baby does not come into the earth from the womb without a struggle. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, understanding what I'm saying, hopefully you are. If not, please listen to this again. That's the example I want to present. An example that says that we have been told a lie by out of ignorance of what's written. And what is written was taken from what we know as the Shabbat stone. They didn't take it from that. It was taken from the beliefs of the Kemetic priests. That is just an example of how twisted we have become. That is an example of why Christianity is so deeply ingrained in us. And I promise you, it is not virtually, it is totally impossible for us to process spiritually without having purged ourselves of Christianity. Christianity justifies everything that is wrong.
Yeah.
And I know that's like scraping your nails on a board for some of you. But that's what happens when the truth is presented. It's hard to swallow. Yet you got to do it. And if you don't swallow it, if you choose not to, then that's your choice to remain where you are. I sit and I contemplate and I receive because I want to purge myself of every belief that was given to me through Christianity, yet at the same time have a residual memory of it so I can do a comparison while we are teaching so that you can see not only the fallacy, but you can see the truth. And if I were to continue with this and come from the water covering the deep, but in that Bereshit bara Elohim, if I were to come past that and move forward, what we would see is the existence of what Elohim did. When it says that beginning created Elohim, the question is, why did beginning create Elohim, and what did Elohim do afterwards? Why is it that Netter brought into existence the universe, which is noon, what we call the water, what they call the water of noon, simply another language saying the same thing. Why is it that this out of Netter, out of the Ein Sof, the one that created everything, came the universe, and within the confines of that universe, there was light, and that light was extracted. That enlightenment is saying that enlightenment is in the midst of the wisdom that surrounds you at all times. That light is what gives you insight, matter of fact, sight, because you cannot see with your natural physical eyes without light. Are you with that? You cannot see without light. So, to understand what what Elohim did, we must see the source, and then we are able to see the purpose of one yet many, meaning that the purpose of bringing into this existence a spiritual consciousness that is tasked with bringing into existence a God that's in physical form for the purpose of becoming a physical God in the earth. After we pass the light being called from the darkness, then other aspects were brought into existence, but they were brought into existence by Atum, the words, the speech. It was spoken into existence. So when we look at, and God said, and God said, and God said, when we look at that, this is talking about the movement of energy that brought everything into existence. Atom is the atom, Atom. And when it talks about the atom. From the atom came everything. What Christianity did was capitalize the A. What Judaism did was capitalize the A. This is not a proper name. Islam did the same thing. This is energy. And there is absolutely nothing on the face of this earth that is devoid of an atom, atom. Not one thing on this earth can live or exist without being, without coming from atoms. Are you with me? I'm going somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
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 So the atoms that brought all of this into existence, that atom is simply the speaking of energy. What does that mean? It simply means that the movement of energy in the midst of the universe brought into existence everything that is inclusive of humanity. What the scripture did with Cain and Abel, what the scripture did with that was made it two brothers when it was one entity. And that entity had both the propensity to be adverse to Mayat, which are the principles that we should live by, and the potential to be righteous. Living according to Mayat, the principles that we were brought into existence to live by. And it shows if it's done the way it should be done, it shows that it shows that Abel and I think SE, whatever it is, they are, oh my God, what are they? They are entities of energy that give you a choice. And what the Creator has done is shown us what will happen if we choose not to follow Mayat. If we choose not to follow Mayat, then we kill those who will follow Mayat. In colloquial language, the African is Abel, the European is Cain. And the attitude is you kill the African. You dominate the African. That's what Cain and Abel supposed to be talking about, but it's not. And then comes Seth, which is an example of what happens when you are able to balance what's in you. It doesn't mean that you don't have thoughts of doing terrible things. What it means is that you are able to control it. That is balance. Right now, when we begin to think spiritually, when we begin to see things from our eye, that is what brings us to a place of balance. And at that point, we do not inundate ourselves with what's happening in the news. We hear it so we can read the signs of the time, but we do not flood our soul with it to the extent that it begins to dominate our emotions. Christianity deals with politics more than it deals with spirituality. It doesn't matter what church you go in, you're going to hear the mention of Trump pretty much every Sunday. You're going to hear the mention of of how people treat each other in a bad way. All these things are from Cain, the attitude of Cain. And I'm talking about energy forms. I'm not saying that all white people are Cain. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying I'm talking mindset of Europe versus the mindset of a Cabelon. Are you with me?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
And I'm saying that we have been shown in this Cain and Abel story, these are not men, these are energy forces. We have been shown in this story something that is extremely important. African, when you come into this earth, you're going to come in contact with Cain. And when you come in contact with Cain, if you allow Cain to dominate you, then you are going to be just like Cain until you recognize who you were created to be. And when you recognize who you were created to be, then you will be able to read that book that they call the Bible, and you will see all of the spiritual connections, all of the spiritual journey, the road to the spiritual journey that you must take. The directions that we travel in order for us to get to a place of being as spiritual as we were created to be, or like the synapse in the brain, like the nerve endings in the brain. It travel in so many different directions, but all of them end up doing one thing, and that is monitoring and giving energy to the body to function. Does that make sense? So, with us being brought into this existence, it is what happening now is our journey is an effort to bring into existence, or not bring into existence, it already exists, to bring in, to embrace rather, embrace the energy of what is called Seth, meaning that we are at a place where we must balance ourselves. And the balance means that we have chosen to follow the principles of Maya. We have chosen to embrace the reality of who we are. All of this stuff that's in the 10 Commandments does not do justice to what it was stolen from. Mayat was in place 2,000 years before the advent of Moses. And I say the advent because it was not a creature. It is a man who was created by those who made every effort to rewrite the spiritual aspects of Kemetic priesthood. So it was 2,000 years before the commandments before this so-called Moses was born. And the reason that we have these dates about him being born is because a German priest who was teaching in a seminary said that the earth came into existence in October on a Sunday, and he said it was 4,000 years ago. No research, no nothing. He said it, and the church did it. And here we are believing. Christianity says that the earth is 4,000 years old. And as long as we believe that, we will continue to have a mindset. Why? Because what I'm talking about are beginnings. And as long as your concept of beginnings is warped, your thinking is going to be warped. What you see is going to be warped. Your eye will have interludes with what reality looks like It will have interludes, but come to bring it to the place where we are able to voice, we are able to embrace the desires, the principles of man for the purpose of humanity being protected from the vileness of the mindset of Europeans. That will not happen. That protection will not happen. That balance will not come until we are able to see Christianity for what it really is, as opposed to trying to hold on to a snippet of it just in case. This is not a just in case journey. This is a journey of life, a journey of livelihood. That's what this is. And go ahead.
I guess my thought on it is it's more of a trust than a just in case. Meaning we're so used to what we see that we trust our eyes more than we do our eye. I think we are. It's almost like the battered woman who has a beautiful home and a beautiful car and all these and got all this money, but she doesn't know what's beyond that door. So I know I should leave, I could leave, but I don't know what's there. Or can I endure this to hold on to my quote unquote security? Uh, and in that security is where all your fear and all your terror lies, but you have become so comfortable with it, it's hard to turn it loose. So that's how I see it, not so much as a just in case, but as I don't know what belongs beyond that. And beyond that, I'm not sure who I am.
No one is looking for who they are. That's why they say I'm a Christian and stop. They don't know how to look for who they are. And what you are saying, I can embrace totally, because the man that's beating that woman doesn't know who he is. Who told him who he was? Barbara was talking about who told you that you were naked? Who taught you that you were nobody? Who taught you, man, that you are supposed to dominate the female? Who told you that? The same one who told you who you are. That's who told you that. The one who lied to you and continues to lie about who you are. This whole mindset, listen to this, please. When we look at a cable line, when we look at at Europe, it is a small piece of property. And when we look at a cable line, you could fit Europe into a cable line and you wouldn't even see it. It's so small. So what am I saying to you? We see Europeans' mindset as a giant. We cannot go into the promised land because there are giants there, when they're actually gnats. We can't go into the promised land because we will be defeated. That's our mindset. Who told you that? Christianity.
Yeah.
That's who told you that. Christianity said that you are so myopic until you can't see unless we give you permission to see, you're shallow-minded. Your mind doesn't count. What you think is unreal is barbaric. And if we think about it, we say that everything, well, when I was growing up, is that everything a white man tells you that that's bad about you, that's what he is. That's how I grew up. What we are seeing now is everything that Trump says is bad, that's what he's doing. Can you see that?
Mm.
So everything that has been told to us about who we are, that's who the one who told us is. That mindset is like a grain of salt in the ocean when it's compared to the mindset of a Kabbalah. And we have been looking at it with our eyes and embracing it with our all. And that is the reason that we are afraid. The man who beats the woman lives in fear because he feels like the only way he can dominate is to be violent. And who taught him that? Who taught him that? Where did that come from? And that woman who stays has been taught that you are less than human. When you say less than a man, what you are saying, you're less than human. And when you have in your presence one, the feminine, who you say is less than human, and you are the dominating factor there, what you have done is destroyed the opportunity for a Kabbalah, the spirituality of a Kabbalah to function properly in the earth. You've heard me say this 1,000 times. What a man and his woman agree on, they can make it happen. Whatever man and his wife agrees on, it's going to happen. Why? I didn't know it then, but I do now, because masculinity and femininity has become one. Can you see that?
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. So, in order for us to appreciate not only the validity, but the power that understanding the wisdom of creation is for us to desire it. You're not going to understand if you don't desire it. I remember years ago talking to people about, why are you in the church? Why are you here? And I raised those questions in Bible studies because they're always challenging something with nothing to back it up. Why are you here? I ask that same question to you. Why are you here? Why are you here why are you logged in to this Zoom session? Why? Why are you here? And once you answer that, then ask yourself, why are you in this earth? Why do you feel like it's okay for an ant to dominate you? Why is that okay? And you don't have to crush the ant. You don't have to kill any physical being in terms of European mindset. You don't have to do that. All you have to do is know who you are. Free yourself from the shackles of Christianity. Free yourself so that you can be who you were created to be. We have talked about who we are created to be. We have talked about that for many years. And yet, we are simply a shell of who we are created to be because of the depth, in the depth of our minds, we are still Christians.
Yeah.
We are still Christians. Keep in mind, there are 12 teachers with 13 with me. There are 13, and out of the 13 of us, it may be 2, maybe 3, who did not grow up in the church like the rest of us did. Because we were Sunday school teachers. We were the ones who talked in church meetings. We were the ones who ran everything. But also, we were the ones who questioned everything and got no answers. It took boldness to be able to question, knowing what you're going to get back. Why are you in my class? I remember distinctively when my kids were in Sunday school and I was at Mount Tabor. That was the first church I pastored in Gaffney. I remember this clearly. My kids were put out of the Sunday school class and told to ask your daddy because they had questions that no one could address. I ain't gonna say they wouldn't, they couldn't. And the Sunday school teacher said, ask your daddy. He has the answer. You're disturbing my class. Yeah, those were our kids. What made them do that? Because of how they grew up. What made you question? Because of how you grew up. You grew up in a setting that probably strict, and I know was guarded and guided by Christianity. But you also grew up in a setting where you were not punished for speaking what you felt. Am I right?
Yeah.
That's where the boldness came. You say, oh God, we had not lost the energy of the African. And now, what we say periodically when we agree with something is what? Ashe. Am I right? That look up Ashe, A-S-H-E or A-S-E. It's a Yoruba word. And it means energy. It means spirit. It means to create also. That one word. So we did not start saying Ashe simply because it's a cool thing to do. It was because something in us has been awakened. And now that it is awakened, don't put it back to sleep. Don't even let it doze off. Stay with it. Keep it awake. Because the more you awaken, the more spiritual you are in terms of embracing your essence. It is no misnomer that the people who are slaveholders, who are oppressors, are talking about we need to stop this wokeness. Is something in them that lets them know that the African has awakened and never should go back to sleep again. Be proud of that. We have been asleep for too long. And our sleep has been in the bed of Christianity. And the bed of Christianity has brought to us an acceptance of all the worst things, an acceptance of America being exceptional, and it has brought to us the idea that it's okay to go into another country and kill folks. It has brought to us an acceptance of capitalism that benefits no one other than Europeans. No one other than Europeans. Example. Muammar Gaddafi, Libya. No one paid for education. Even if you wanted to study abroad, the government paid for it. No one paid for health care. Even if you had something that was going on with your body that they could not treat in Libya, the government will put you on a plane and fly you anywhere in the world where someone could treat you. There was no homelessness in Libya. Everyone in Libya got a stipend from the government because of the oil. Libya had no bills whatsoever. Everything in Libya was paid for. They had no debt. And Gaddafi used billions, making every effort to bring into existence the United States of Africa, and was headed in that direction. And the moment that he said that our currency will be our resources, who killed him? They talked him out of his nuclear weapons. They kissed him on his cheek. They embraced him. They made him feel like he was their friend. They befriended him and killed him. Why do you think they killed him? They couldn't let that happen. I said, as long as we embrace capitalism, Christianity, we are embracing the enslavement of Africa. We are embracing our own enslavement, self-imposed slavery. But if we look at the Kemetic priesthood, what we begin to see is the foundational basic of it was know who you are. And when you know who you are, you will never be enslaved. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I want to.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Audrey.
No, I was just going to comment that Christianity is sort of, in the last 25, 30 years, they've sort of doubled down by proclaiming that the Bible is literal and you have to believe the literalness of it. Another means of controlling how people think and keeping people enslaved.
Yes.
Anyway.
Audrey,
Go ahead, Ron.
let me say this to what you said. Have you not noticed that every leader in Africa who kisses up to America is a Christian? Every leader is a Christian because they've been handpicked. And they are killing our people because they're homosexuals. Because Christianity told them to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You've said a lot here today. I just want to go back a little bit and kind of bring it forward and let you put a bow on it for me. we've talked about the age of Aquarius. We've talked about the sixth sense. We've you know, we've talked about the planets lining up. We've talked about all this energy that is available to us, and it is there. And all of this stuff was shown to us for a purpose. Uh, and I use the word purpose because it is to be used in the right way, in the correct way, in the manner in which it was created. Uh, and we talked about some of this stuff lining up and coming about and looking at it and saying, well, this hadn't been in the earth in X amount of thousands of years, or why, why is it here now? Why does this happen? We just had this moon or that moon. So we look at all these energies and all this stuff that has happened, if we can timeline it and look at it in the last 2 years, especially, 2 or 3 years rather, uh, I still come back to, what do you believe and who are you? And I know that's what you've been talking about. I say these questions are verbs, meaning they're ready to be put into action. There's something to start a movement, or not a movement, but to move in a certain direction. They're actionable. They're things that should prod us into a direction. So I look at that and I compare what all you've said to those guys, if you will, being in the upper room and recognizing where they are on one hand, and then the part of the mind kind of going back to where I was in, before all this thing took place, and not knowing what to do, being paralyzed. And so I just want to make sure we don't miss this. And I want to make sure, because I think we're at a very crucial place of understanding ourselves, our purpose, and being one with the universe. So the mindset, bringing all of this together, and seeing this, and as you said, questioning yourself, and your purpose for being here every week on this line, your purpose for wanting this. Uh, Tie this together, 'cause I can't leave those two questions alone. And I know it's an individual thing, and it's also a collective thing. What is it that we believe in, and what do we see ourselves as at this point, at this place?
It is up to us to determine what we believe. Let me hold on one moment, Ron. George, did you have a question or comment?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I'll come back to that, Ron.
Yeah, Ron, what I wanted to mention in terms of just, Pastor just starting us out, looking at the beginning when he had mentioned Bereshith Bar Elohim, that the beginning created God. And I think as we travel, on this spiritual journey, for me personally, and I think it may apply to others, it is written that I want to know me. I want to think, I want to see, hear, smell, taste, and feel, but I cannot because I am spirit. And I'm looking at this now before the beginning, what existed. But
Mhm.
it says, I am in potential rest in my eternal space. I want to be and continue to become so that I can know that I am who I am. I am the creator who will know that I am the creator, but the only way to know is to come through physical form. We were talking about beginning, but the question is what existed before beginning, and Pastor mentioned Insof. But when we talk about our own physical evolution, before the beginning began, before existence existed, thought in the universal mind created a desire. The proof of desire is in the pursuit, but that desire is in the heart. Desire spoke word in the heart, and word made flesh. So when we read about John, and John talk about in the beginning was the word was God, the word was God, it's speaking, these principles of Mayat, but it said flesh brought all and everything into being and started the process of the cosmos becoming in the universe and the creator's first thought. Now, in what I read, I'm just trying to grasp it, in my spirit, because again, in terms of just looking at it from the teachings of the Kushite and Kemetic teachings, it speaks about the importance of coming to a reckoning using a corrective method. Now, when I say coming to a reckoning, coming to a point of truth, that, I'm able to, grasp in my spirit to be able to realize that as we begin this journey, to be able to appreciate the transformation in terms of us beginning to walk in the newness of our understanding of what the creation story is. And I'm only saying it now because, there's the creation story that's from the Bible. There's the creation story that we may come to have some understanding of in terms of the Big Bang Theory. But more importantly, the third creation story is talking about the stone of Shabaka. And this was the stone that was not emphasized, in terms of Western society, but we have the opportunity now to be able to come into that wisdom. And my last point is, even though Mayat is the pathway, is the roadway that we travel by living these principles, but we also had what I think Pastor mentioned about was the understanding, and that was the polarity of Mayat and Tahuti, Thoth.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. But I think that I just wanted to share those thoughts because that beginning piece is so important, and I think is something relevant, to what we are saying, and hopefully we will continue to evolve where we need to go. I just want to share those thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pastor, let me
One
say
more-
before you get started, I'm George made me think of something when he talked about beginning, and I can't wait till you guys break this down because you are so much out there farther than where I am as far as my understanding is with this. I'm beginning to though. What I see and what I was saying to Pastor, what I see is I see uh us, me, but us specifically being at the place where we can do anything we want to do. And I don't mean that arrogantly at all. In fact, I mean it in the most humble way I can think of. Uh, I think one of the things that has personally held me back is I get discouraged and get upset with myself when I have negative thoughts. And I let that drag me down. But that's not who I am. And I recognize now that those occasional thoughts are not who I am, even when I have to stop and maybe, okay, Ron, settle down, take a deep breath and settle down. My desire is to move forward. My desire is to see where we are and what we're supposed to be doing right now. And I feel that. I feel something here. I think there is nothing anymore that is off limits to us. Whether you want to look at it as being in another place, dimension, a galaxy, or whatever, a different level, or I don't know what any of that means, but I think we are accumulation of all of this knowledge, meaning that the intimacy of it has come to us without even understanding. I don't understand what George just said, all of it, or what Pastor explains, but I know it is in me, and I know I have the desire. The desire is to move into a place that you can help mankind, that you can bring peace and harmony into the earth. And I think we are at that place. I don't think we're close to it. I don't think we're at a place where we need to pray about it. We are there. The energy and all the things that we have talked about coming and being here, it was just an eye opener for us. And even the scriptures to me is an eye opener to us. What Pastor explained about Cain and Abel today is an eye opener to us. And that's what I see. That's why these questions are so important to me. It's not a matter of I don't necessarily know what to do, but I do know that we are action. And the earth, if you will, the goodness, the righteousness, the thing that is lying dormant, waiting for man, is waiting for the people that are here now, that are sincere about this journey. That's what I see, and that's what has me a little going a little bit today when I looked at that and talk, listen to back to what the tape was last week and what is being said today, and even with the young lady on the phone on talking about the Kemetic, giving us a broader sense of what that means. So that's what has me going right now. That energy in me that says, "What is it? What more do you need to see? What else? This is talking about you. What is it that we're supposed to do right now? Or can we see that? Or is it just me
No,
being excited about something?"
not only you are excited, I think, I know I am too, and I think we all are, because there's a desire that we have to know thyself. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I mean, that's the bottom line, man, woman, know thyself. And to know thyself, it has to be that desire. And as you say, it's in us, but now we're seeing the manifestation of our desires by our pursuit, you know what I mean, of the truth, the pursuit of the primary source, you know what I mean, that we're able to have, that we can not only see what our eye, but being able to appreciate, they say what a picture's 1,000 words, right? Or a symbol is 1,000 pictures, but what is we seeing with our eye? And I think collectively, there's a feeling of exaltation, in terms of us, knowing that uh, we are who the creator created us to be. And I think the two cosmic laws, and again, we'll get there when we talk about I am the creator, right? Having a human experience.
that's it, George. Yes,
Okay, so what are we creating? Are we creating and following the principles of Ma'at, truth, justice, balance? And again, it's in us. So it's not a matter, like we had said in the past, that you got to, recite it. But I think it's just a joy that we're living in an awesome time. And I believe that our light, our energy, that we'll experience this new heaven and a new earth. I believe we are. So I think that again, these virtues that we're learning, the teachings that we're receiving, uh, the aspirations of us being able to be that light that can shine, in darkness. But again, it's all what we desire. So, Ron, I truly appreciate, your spirit with regards to how you feel, because I think we all are experiencing it in our own ways. But how do
yeah.
we collectively come together now and appreciate how our ancestors gave us this African theory of the origin and continued development of the cosmic, consciousness, or the cosmic.
Sure.
Sorry.
So,
Sorry.
so,
I just
so
have a
the
quick
answer to the
question.
question,
Go ahead.
What you said earlier when you were reading what you were reading, it really sparked something in me. And my question is, was the Shabaka stone the real stone that was rejected?
I love that question.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's when I had mentioned to Pastor about that particular scripture, Psalms 118:22, because again, in my heart, I believe that it's something that's being rejected. But in terms of it being given to us in the language or the linguistics of that Psalms, but Pastor, I'm making a pass.
Okay. That
I have a question before you answer that. So the answer to the question of who are you and what do you believe is the one and the same thing. Because you're going to be what you believe you are. And what we're saying is you either make a decision that you're going to trust what you feel. In other words, what you see with your eye. You're going to trust that now that it has been like the stone was uncovered, in a sense, the Shabbat stone was uncovered. It was hidden for a while.
Yeah.
We've uncovered that in us, that truth in us, that we are spiritual beings, and so we make a choice. So we're going to live by those principles on that Shabbat stone, and the stone is simply a symbol of the spiritual underpinning of the truth of who we are. Those atoms that were pulled together from the universe originally and placed and ordered into the principles of Ma'at. Are we going to follow that, or are we going to continue knowing who we are now? Are we going to make a decision to continue following along in the European mindset of taking things in through our senses, our natural physical senses, our eyes, and letting that predominate who we are? Because if that's what we will do, then that's who we are. If that's what we believe, that everything physical and everything we see, and capitalism and greed and whatever and selfishness is the preeminent principle that I'm going to follow, that's who I am. But on the other hand, if I believe that my purpose is to truly know myself as a spiritual being, and I think the kicker is the difference between a spiritual being and a physical being, because my priorities will be different if I am following that spiritual path versus the physical path. It's saying then that I commit to seeing me through my eye. I commit to seeing you through my eye. I commit to interacting with others through my eye. And those associated principles of Ma'at will govern how I do that. And so what you believe and who you are one and the same. We just have to decipher and know ourselves that that's our purpose, to know the true spiritual beings that we are. As you all have said, to act on that. It's an act to act within that mind. I don't want to say mindset when I'm talking about spiritual things, that it doesn't click for me. So an act within that consciousness of spiritualness. So that's my understanding of what the questions were, who you are and what you believe. I believe they are the same thing. And I choose which path I'm following.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Question to ask. The story about Cain and Abel regarding the energies, is that the same as the Native American story about the two wolves, in which the grandfather is talking to the grandson and telling him there's a fight within me, and he said there's the evil side, jealousy, rage, and there's the good side, loving kindness. And then the grandson asks the father, which one wins? And the grandfather says, it's the one that I feed. Is that the same concept?
Yes. Matter of fact, that concept came from Kemet. Keep in mind also that the first people in this country, we call them Native American, but they were not native to this country. In this landmass, there were Africans first. And if you look at the earlier photographs of what we call Native Americans, they are distinctively much darker in complexion than they are now. Also, there were 70 million Native Americans killed after this continent was colonized by Europeans. 70 million were killed. And now when you see a Native American, you can't tell him from a European, pretty much, because of what they did to wipe that group of people out. I want to continue this. However, I know that there are others who are going to be listening to this, and I'm wondering out loud if I should take the shot tomorrow. George made the pass, and should we take the shot tomorrow? Come on, guys, because I
Well,
can
the
continue.
beautiful thing about people.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say the great thing about people listening later is that it is a recording they can always stop and come back to.
I hear you, girl.
Yeah.
Okay, so I
Yeah.
suppose let me ask this: how many of you concur with what Janice just said? Okay.
I concur.
Okay. All right. First of all, what is the Shabaka stone? We've been talking about it, or they're making mention of it. Let me identify it. My intent was to identify when we delve deeper into it. However, now it's a good time. The Shabaka stone, that was written on parchment or papyrus. The same thing that's on the Shabaka stone. And the Pharaoh Shabaka saw that it was being eaten by worms and it was deteriorating. So he had his priests and scholars to inscribe this on a stone in order to preserve it. And this stone is to the African what is known to us now as the Bible, coupled with textbooks. That's the Shabaka stone. The Shabaka stone, the stone that was rejected, is exactly it. The stone that was rejected was not of Jesus, that didn't exist. The stone that was rejected is this stone because it was written by the people of Okebelon, the people of the sun. And to further understand the ignorance of what was on the stone, the ignorance of what was being taught by the Kemetic priesthood. To this day, Europeans are looking for the Garden of Eden. They're searching Turkey for the Garden of Eden and for the boat of Noah. Okebelon means the garden of pleasure, the garden of life. The Garden of Eden is spiritual, just as Okebelon is spiritual. So Okebelon is the Garden of Eden. It is the Garden of Beginnings. It is the place of paradise. That's what we must embrace in order to begin continue our journey of spirituality. The other thing is that when we talk about being the people of the sun, that is much deeper than just saying it. What does the sun do? The sun gives life to the earth, does it not? It does.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot see the life that the sun gives to the earth. The nutrients from the sun are invisible. You cannot see them with your eyes. Just as I can't see you with my eyes. I see the vehicle that you travel in, but I can't see you with my eyes. When I see you with my eye, I see me, and I see the depth of spirituality that you are. I don't see a deviant. I see in African, the children of Akabalon. Barbara responded to the question of how you determine who you are. That there's nothing more to be said about that other than who you believe and who you are one. The atom was in the beginning. And the atom is what brought everything into existence. The atom determines the characteristics of everything that's physical. The atom determines the characteristics of how you look, how a tree looks. Think about it this way. The atom brought into existence a tree, but the atom didn't call it a tree. It's just there. So when it talks about Adam being called to name all the animals, remember that passage?
Yes.
Adam, the atom, ATOM, is the voice of Ptah. The voice of Elohim is the atom. It is the atom, ATOM. And the atom, it does not speak verbally as we speak. The atom brings things together. The energy that was at rest that George talked about is now in motion. And it brings into existence everything that we can see. And nothing is stable in the sense that it's not moving. Every atom continues to move as long as it exists. And right now, your body appears to be solid, but everything in your body, the atoms are still moving. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I don't want to get too deep into the science of it, but that's the reality of it. So when we talk about what was brought into existence, what was spoken into existence, it is not speaking words. It is energy at rest, giving characteristics to everything that was brought into the earth. So the characteristic of that thing that's in my yard with roots in the ground that has leaves on it, I call it a tree. You call it a tree. That's the naming. I'm sorry, the characteristics of everything. That's what it is talking about. Adam gave the characteristics to everything that existed, as opposed to naming that's a cow, that's a dog, that's a pig. That's a European mindset. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If it doesn't, ask a question, please.
Well, to me.
Okay. So when it says that it was called Adam named everything, then it talks about the idea of Adam being given a helpmeet. And that is where things began to deviate from the stone that was rejected. It is impossible for an atom to be given a helpmeet. That's the literacy of ignorance. when the Bible talks about that. Ignorance is not a bad thing. Ignorance simply means that you're not aware. So with that in mind, the Adam, when it talks about the Adam being given a helpmeet, is talking about the Adam becoming a sense of awareness for that which is created. Is not talking about a woman being constructed from the dirt. That's not what it's talking about. It's talking about you have the ability, the authority to give names, a character, they give the character rather to a tree, naming that tree. Everything talks to each other. Disease tree sends a message to the other trees of what's happening to it. Everything talks to each other. So the talking in terms of naming something, the characteristics of it come from the Adam, come from spirituality, come from something that's spiritual. So you were not made for Adam, the ADAM. You were not made for that because Adam actually is Adam, or the entity that spirituality that the Creator flows through. Now, when we understand that, we give character to what's on this earth. It is then that we begin to understand how is it that Imhotep could bring into existence medicinal plants that helped the body. It's because Imhotep knew that in order for this to help, it is what I say it is. If everything in this earth was brought into existence for the support of the human body, as the spiritual essence travels with the human body or carries the human body throughout this earth, it means that this earth is going to have an effect on that human body. And when the earth has an adverse effect on the human body, Imhotep goes to get a plant. And Imhotep is the one who determines what kind of what the actions of that plant. And that's how we got medicine from Imhotep. That's how everything came into existence. There are writings that talk about the mechanism through which the stones of the pyramids were put in place. There are writings that talks about the engineers who developed a machine made of wood that moved those stones. What am I saying to you? The character of what's in this earth is determined by God in this earth, by us in this earth. Are you with me so far? Speak to me, please.
So you're saying
Yes, sir.
Imhotep, whatever was needed, whatever was desired, that was the creation thereof, whatever. It doesn't just grow and I experienced this because it is grown in the earth, but it was grown for that purpose, or
You determine the purpose.
yeah, that's okay. I just had never heard you explain it like that. I like that, and even the naming of the animals, it's more of an experience than
Yes.
yeah. Okay.
I never explained it like that because I never saw it like that.
So we determine the purpose based on the characteristics we give it.
Yes. And that is the reason we are stuck in terms of our bringing into existence the balance,
Gotcha.
because we think with our minds and not our soul.
Yeah.
Imhotep was trained to think with his soul. How is it that the African could tell George Washington to take a small piece of, it says smallpox, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Smallpox.
How did he know that? To make a scratch on his body and put this in it, and he would be immune. How did he know that? Because that was needed for survival, and that was determined from the depth of his spiritual essence. Take this and scratch it, and because that was shown to him, that's what it did. It healed. It prevented the smallpox from coming back. That's what it did. It prevented the smallpox from killing him. That's what it did. We have that power. We have the power. We said that everything needed to be exposed. And when we said that everything needed to be exposed, what happened? It was exposed, was it not?
So when you talk about the character of a thing, you're basically talking about the essence of that thing,
Yes.
the spiritual essence of that thing.
Yes.
And so when you design a solution for a spiritual essence, the spiritual essence of a thing, then that solution must be based in spirit and not on something physical.
Yes. It has to be based in spirit.
So-
Meaning that when we say based in spirit, to see we're on the same page, Barbara J. When we say based in spirit, we are saying that it must be based coming from the depths of our essence of who we are, and not from our mind within the earthly experience. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yes, ma'am. We're on the same page.
So pull that together with what to what we're talking about. Because I mentioned something earlier. I talked about all the stuff we've been shown. Because you talked about Imhotep and what it had been shown. Talk about the smallpox, what it had been shown. All this energy, all this stuff that we've been shown. How do we utilize that? How do we pull that together?
The best response I can give you is this, and I call it a response because answers are usually definitive. This is the best response I can give you. We don't have to ask that question when we experience who we are. We don't have to ask that question because we are no longer processing with our mind. We are no longer looking at it scientifically. We are no longer looking at it through academia. We are experiencing it as we give it its character. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So when we see that spiritually, I need to get off the video. Okay, I need to close my video.
Okay.
When we see that spiritually, what do we see? We saw the chaos that exists in this society. And seeing the chaos that exists in this society, what did we do? We wanted an end to it, and we were not clear on how to do that. And we continued this journey of self exploration until we begun to see that we are the only ones in this earth who can do that. And when I say we are the only ones, I'm talking about the children of Akebalon. And when we embrace that essence and process through our souls, it is then that we are able to see all this brought to a head. Now, we are not to determine what it's going to look like, but we are to determine that it comes to an end. And the reason we are not determined are not to determine what it looks like is because we are full of contamination. Our minds are diseased. And the disease of the mind is this mindset that we have been inundated with. We are making every effort to clear our minds through our spiritual experiences so that we are able, if not us, to put it in the macro to the extent that it is experienced by those who are able to do it. Does that make sense so far, Ron?
Yes, sir.
So we are not on the precipice of something. We are in it. All of the distractions that we have experienced, all of these distractions are to pull us off course. This is not about smart versus ignorance. This is about spiritual experiences seeking to claim the essence of everyone on earth. We are the first ones in this earth. We are the spiritual essence of this earth. And because we are that, we have a task, and that task is to bring humanity to a sense of spirituality, a sense of knowing who it is. We must do that. We are not Christians. We are not the Adam of the Bible. We are the Adam of creation. We are more than what we have been told. We are not just kings and queens. We are gods. And we will not be able to seriously embrace that until we come to an understanding that it is the cosmic mother who is the birth, who has the womb that birthed everything that is. And that womb of the cosmic mother is the womb of what we call females today. That feminine womb is the womb of the cosmic mother. And when we embrace that, when we stop dilly-dallying around and begin to see without any interruption that the feminine energy, the female, is representative of that cosmic mother. And that African, that womb of Akebalon begins to birth into this earth the necessary power, the necessary energy to push humanity to a place where it begins to seek something better. And as it seeks something better, it begins to embrace the energy of its essence without even knowing what to call it. Keep in mind that this one piece of rock, this grain of sand out of Europe was dropped in Africa and in Akebalon. And that grain of sand that was dropped in Akebalon began to spread you know what I'm trying to say. And as it spread, we saw the domination of Akebalon by Islam Judaism, Christianity, that one grain of sand contaminated the spiritual essence of a Kabbalah. And we are not to crush that grain of sand. We are to transform that grain of sand. We are not to encapsulate it like it's like the sand create a pearl. We are not that. We are to change the essence of it. Why do I say that? Because the genetic makeup of the African is full of what? Melanin. Melanin is in everything. And the Europeans don't have melanin. They don't have thioinase to transform the melanocyte into melanin. They don't have that. You can be under a lamp to get tan all day long. All you're saying is, I want to return to my foundation. And all you're saying about that, returning to your foundation, is I want to go back to the womb that I came out of. And we are here to make that happen. And the resistance to that is seen in the fear of the genetic loss of whiteness. Nothing changes unless melanin exists in everyone. And the only way that the European is going to get melanin is through the African who has melanin, through those who have melanin. That is when the real change can be seen. The resistance of that is seen every single day. Why is it that there's no melanin there? Because the African is the dominant gene, and the lack of melanin is recessive. The European is from a recessive gene, and that is why it doesn't have melanin. And that is why it resists. It is resisting becoming what it was destined to become and becoming the thing that it came out of. It despises itself. And the reason it challenges the African is because it is angry that it cannot produce, it cannot bring into existence anything. That's the anger. That is an attempt to destroy self. And until science figures out how to do this, that will never happen. You can like it or not. It does not matter. The world will be dominated by brown people, by people of color. And that domination does not come violently. That domination comes with love. That domination comes with mercy, forgiveness, all the attributes of Ma'at. And for those who don't know, Ma'at are the principles that we are to live by. And those principles does not demand anything other than you looking inside yourself. I have not. I have not. Means that you are doing an introspection of yourself. I'm not judging you, you judging you. However, get back to where I am or where I was. This whole idea of balance in the earth comes with the acceptance that melanin is predominant over everything. And melanin does not seek to kill anybody or anything. Melanin is in this earth for the express purpose of propagating life. And the reason the recessive genes came into play is because as Elohim, as Ptah, as Elohim walks around in this body, as God traverses the earth, it cannot allow anyone to say, who told you you God? That's blasphemy. You must embrace who you are. And as you do that, you will become a part of the settling of this issue of whiteness. Everything is done to preserve whiteness. And there's discomfort with a lot of people who look like us with this idea of whiteness becoming a thing of the past. Whiteness became the seat of racism, and the seat of racism is not just money. The foundation of all of it is a desire to dominate and take from the African everything that it produces. The Wright brothers did not make the first plane. A guy who was born a slave, Cage, I believe his last name was, made the first plane and was sending it to Missouri to be in an exposition, and the plane was stolen from the train. It just disappeared. Nobody ever found it. And a few years later, the Wright brothers had a plane flying. You figured it out. What am I saying to you? I'm saying to you, the humility of who you are must be dominant in your life. And that humility, that humility is the source of your loving kindness, your forgiveness, your mercy. To tell me that I am making racist statements because I am telling the truth about the genetic circumstances of humanity is to deny the truth. All of us know it's true. The reason it's so hard for us to grasp the spiritual nature of who we are is because we don't want to hear the hard truth about humanity so that we are able to end the violence. So that we are able to bring everyone to submission of the Creator. Not the African, but the Creator. The hard truths. We are uncomfortable speaking them. I have become more comfortable. It was hard for me to talk about who the Creator has shown me I am. It's still not easy, but it's easier than what it was. It was difficult for me to talk about the reality of the European mindset, the African mindset, because I did not want to sound racist. There was a period when I didn't care. I'm not playing a race card. I'm playing the card of our Creator. And I promise you, there is going to be an acceleration of the birth of brown people, of Africans in particular, into this earth. There was an effort to hide the history even deeper than what it was hidden before. And guess what? Every time you get a news feed, when you open it, you will see some of our African history. When things pop up on your phone, you see more African history than you ever did because the universe has spoken. The universe is determined for the African to know who it is. Why? Because there are a group of people in a sequestered place that no one really knows, that have no physical contact with each other, but are always connected. There are a group of people who are looking into the depths of beginning, who are embracing the reality of the universal mind. meaning the universal spirit. And the Creator is showing us who we are for the express purpose of our being able to do it verbally. When we talk about, I was shown this, I was shown that, the Creator is simply showing you things so that you can verbalize it, because of our minds. We very rarely hear with our soul, we hear with our ears. When I say that any teacher can pick up where one left off, if that one have to leave, or if that one, something happens, like drop off the line or something like that. The way that happens is because we are one. And it is the ear of our soul that we hear each other with, not just our ears. The penetration of truth is like a thread that curses through those who are searching for truth. And as it does that, it knits everyone together. And eventually, we see with our eyes the peace and the unicity that exists when we look at our soul through the eye. Spiritually, everything is balanced. It takes this disruption that's taking place now worldwide in order to bring down the walls of Jericho, so that the power of truth can reach the people who desire it, as well as the people who don't know what they need. These walls of Jericho are not physical. They are not. March around the wall 7 times and blow the trumpet. What does that mean? Come to a place of completion, complete understanding. Come to a place where you understand the human and why the human does what it does. When you do that, when you sound the trumpet, means that when you realize the spiritual essence of your being, that is when the walls of Jericho falls. And it matters not who's inside of those walls. What really matters is who we free from the bondage of those walls. I'm done.
Any questions, y'all? Comments? Wow. Okay. It's a little afternoon, so let's take a pause today if we don't have any questions, and pick up here tomorrow. Is that all right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's have a great day, and look forward to seeing you at 11 a.m. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoyed it. Thank you.